Hi, Alex.
Hi, Mickael.
Hey, welcome.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks. I'm very happy to have you on the. It's actually our second episode of the series, "The Business Behind the Numbers." So, founder of Bambu, could you tell us a little bit about what you guys do and a bit about your journey?
Yeah. I guess I can start with what we do. We're a performance marketing company, actually niched this year here in the Philippines to work specifically with retail and consumer brands. We do a lot of work with businesses like Sunny's. We do a lot of work with other businesses, not necessarily on the retail side, but on consumer brands like Yamaha, which is automotive. So yeah, we've been pretty busy the last 5 years here. But I actually came to the Philippines initially in 2020 after having set up Bamboo in London in the UK.
Okay.
So after setting it up in the UK and coming here, COVID happened. And I ended up, I don't know if I told you this story before, but I ended up getting stuck here because you couldn't leave, you couldn't get flights out. And Bamboo originally started not as a business operating in the Philippines, but just operating out of the UK and using talent in the Philippines to support our operations in the UK, kind of like what a BPO, offshoring BPO, that kind of setup. And I discovered like all this great talent. And just by being here and having a network here, because I grew up in Cebu, we started getting referrals here and there to work with local businesses in the Philippines. And that's when we decided to incorporate and start a Philippine business. That was around 2021, I believe. And since then, we've worked with a whole range of different businesses across hospitality, like with the Dusit Group here and their properties. We've done a lot with Sofitel as well in the past. And then, like I said, also on the retail side, some enterprise level clients and then some SMEs as well. So a bit of a mix. And then this year, we've kind of identified that out of our client base, a lot of our clients that we work with are on the retail consumer brand side. So that's when we decided to kind of niche it down a bit into that area. Generally helping businesses essentially drive more revenue from their online sales channels.
Mission really is like drive more revenue, pretty much.
Basically, yeah. That's at the end of the day.
To drive revenue.
Yeah, we call ourselves performance marketing, growth marketing. It's kind of it's the same thing really, but I believe it says it on our website. But every peso spent on marketing should be attributable to some kind of return, really.
Nice.
So that's what we work on, is to try and exactly quantify that return on investment and help businesses get a return on their marketing instead of just running a campaign and hoping for the best.
Passive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just reporting on like likes and comments and like engagement, soft metrics. We go for the hard metrics and really measure things like cost per acquisition, return on ad spend, different metrics that quantify if their marketing investment is actually working for them.
You have an interesting story because you came to offshore, and a lot of companies here
Yeah.
kind of look at the foreign markets. You pivoted and look at the domestic market. Actually, Cloud CFO is a fairly similar journey. Like,
Yeah.
we ended up following like opportunities that were introduced to us at the start, and starting now, 70% of our portfolio is Philippine SMEs. What drove that shift? What opportunity did you see here that you thought was probably worth like pivoting for?
To be honest, I think there was maybe I don't want to say like a skills gap, because there's a lot of really skilled individuals here who know their stuff when it comes to online marketing. Like some of the best talent and hardest working people I've met are in the Philippines versus guys in the UK, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I think one of the gaps is to do with the competition, I would say. What I noticed, and I do a lot of competitor research, and I know how our competitors operate. I meet them at the same conferences. I don't have any bad blood against them. I actually enjoy meeting them and understanding what they're up to. But what I found was, like, in terms of service delivery, client satisfaction, there were a lot of missing bits, because every new client that I'd speak to, I would ask around, like, why are they speaking to us? Have they used a marketing company before? What were the pain points there? And you can kind of, over time, you kind of understand that there's sort of this, just like, I don't know how to say it, like the fulfillment of the services for competitors might not have been as strong as what we're able to deliver for our clients.
So you saw pain points that
Yeah.
persisted despite.
And it was kind of like, and I don't know, it's hard to word it really, but like there was just a gap in the market where like really high quality, I'd say like XWPP knowledge level delivery was lacking. And I think that comes through the work itself and through the results that other marketing companies might deliver.
Yeah.
But we're also like, what I push is we always go above and beyond for the client. So what I noticed is, even with some people that I've onboarded in the past, they stick very much to like what's in the contract, and you have to stick to this. And if the client asks for something, you say, I can't do that because this is this. Sure, I get that from a commercial standpoint, but sometimes it's nice to go above and beyond, go like bend the rules a little bit, to over deliver. And that's what like a lot of business coaches talk about, like, over deliver for your clients all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things that I've sort of pushed on our team, even though they give me pushback sometimes. But yeah, there aren't as many marketing companies or agencies in the Philippines as well versus the UK.
Correct.
So that was the other big thing. I mean, if you put a list of every single marketing agency in the Philippines, it's going to be like this compared to the UK, which, you go around every corner and there's a marketing expert. And now with AI, everyone can be a marketing expert. So there's that element. Initially in the beginning, there was a lot of demand for online marketing, but there's not a huge amount of supply, I guess, in that sense. It's not too many competitors out here.
Yeah, interesting. Very similar. I can relate. When we started Cloud CFO 10 years ago, the same. No one was doing cloud accounting here. Very conventional, traditional accounting. Talk to business owners like, can you be a fractional CFO? And I was kind of just setting up the business and realized you don't need CFO. You just need decent accounting. You just need a P&L, a balance sheet to look at, and then someone maybe will guide you through it. But you don't have the basis to assemble that.
Yeah.
And then so the same gaps in the market. This has been what, 5-6 years now?
Yes, I've been here over 6 years, 6.5 years now. Yeah.
What's been the main challenge? I mean, when one of the main concepts of business behind the numbers is kind of, it's hard to scale a business as an operator.
Yeah.
We face challenges. What has been the main challenge?
So I'll take Thailand. When I went to Thailand initially, and then I'll come to the Philippines, the main challenge there was the fact that I don't speak Thai. I'm not Thai. And that was really difficult because, even in some pitches, people would tell me, you're not Thai. How are you going to help with marketing? If you don't understand the Thai market, you're not Thai, which I get. I do understand that side of things. But when I came to the Philippines, it was a bit different because like contracts are in English. Our team all speak English. Like it's much easier to get acclimated. I think maybe that's probably from US influence from back in the day. Yeah, I'd say navigating the Philippines has been easier than other markets purely based on language and culture, I would say, but predominantly language. If I were to compare being a business owner operator in the Philippines versus a market like Hong Kong or like where we came from in London in the UK, it's definitely very different in terms of the bureaucracy and some of the requirements that you have to go through to set up a business and to operate a business. People from outside of the Philippines think, oh, Philippines is great because it's not that expensive to set up a business there and it's not that expensive to have employees there and all this stuff. That's not necessarily true because there's like a lot of expenses that you don't actually realize when you first set up that business and you start running it. Like, for example, every year having to get a business license from
City Hall business permit, yeah.
Whereas, and that's like, I believe it's like a percentage of revenue, if I'm not mistaken. But in the UK, Hong Kong, we don't have that set up. I think there's a lot of like hidden costs that come out of nowhere that really compound. And then you've got tax on top of that. And you've got certain elements where, you can't expense certain things unless you have the approved OR sales invoice. On the financial side, I think that's been the most difficult thing to adjust to here. Compliance, administration, yeah, exactly. And just dealing with like the bureaucracy, like doing, what was it the other day? I was told that someone couldn't start work because they didn't pass their medical, but really like it wasn't, I don't know if I can say this, but like it wasn't that big of a deal. Like it was just like a minor thing, but then the HR department's like, no, they can't start because they didn't pass their medical. And this person can't come back to work because they didn't do their annual physical exam. And we are going to get shut down because we haven't done the sanitary permit. And when we hit 50 employees, we have to hire a nurse. It's like these things to me are like, what? I did not know any of this stuff. But the reality is like, once you kind of get in the groove, and again, another cost is you have to pay for people to kind of support you in those roles. Whereas like in Hong Kong, UK, you really don't have to pay for like a full-time admin to do admin stuff and all this kind of thing. But that said, there are these hidden costs, and like navigating that, like you said, has been probably the biggest struggle, I would say. And also getting paid on time. That's definitely the struggle.
I think there's also cost of penalties, right? Things become expensive very quickly. So there is the hidden bureaucracy that you may not be aware of, and then it's just like
That's a big one.
you can't use ignorance to get away
Yeah.
from liabilities and penalties, which is fair. It's our job to find out what we should be complying with, but then penalties rack up pretty quick. It's our job to make sure clients get it, avoid these situations and understand how to set up. Yeah, we see this a lot too. So you talk about kind of getting paid. I think this probably hits about cash flow, right? That's the headache or this, the key to solving scalability for a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
How do you solve that? How do you address kind of cash flow issues? Because it's labor costs, right? Most of your costs is payroll.
So what I've noticed, the hardest thing here, at least, and this happens for a lot of other businesses outside the Philippines, I'm sure, but it's like you've got every month you have to make salaries, you have to make rent, you have your ongoing costs that you have to basically get paid to make that every month,
Right.
and also pay yourself. But so you have to make those
Structural costs,
those
overhead
right?
costs, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then what happens though is you'll have a handful of clients that may not pay on time, and then that compresses everything. Then like a month later, you'll have all of them pay at once.
Yeah.
And it's like this huge flood of cash. But then it's never consistent.
Okay.
And I think a lot of businesses have this problem as well. But like in the UK, for example, there are tools like GoCardless, which I loved using back then, where you have your client sign up, direct debit. Sure, they can cancel at any time, but you send them an invoice, automated in zero. 10 days later, the money's deducted from their account. You get paid.
Yeah.
Straightforward. The service isn't interrupted. There's no waking up at 2 a.m. thinking, holy shit, how am I gonna, sorry, I don't know if I can do our first,
Just a little ahead.
like, holy shit, how am I gonna make payroll? Like, how are we gonna cover these costs? Where are we gonna get the money from? There's no like need to like involve the owner to then, after finance chases, then after account manager chases, then like, hey, we haven't been paid in like 3 months, 4 months, what's going on? Like, and then, so there's definitely,
And just to clarify, a lot of your contracts are monthly recurring, right? So it's not like you're project based where it's that seasonality would be expected.
Yeah, we usually do work on monthly retainers.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we do monthly, like we do projects. Yeah, I'd say some clients are structured. Some larger clients, they don't go for a retainer, but they do multiple like cost estimates across the year.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes out monthly, but then it still comes in dumps of cash here and there, which is again isn't ideal, but that's the way that these big businesses operate. And they kind of dictate the payment terms as well and how they're going to do things. The cash flow problem is big, and so what I started doing recently, we talked about this earlier, is I started asking for postdated checks, because that is, the client signed on, they want this work delivered, they want these results, we're committed to deliver them for them, and that issue with finances and cash flow doesn't interrupt the service delivery, keeps things running smooth. Everyone's already in agreement, they've already committed to the budget, like why shouldn't it be a postdated check? And then if not, we do quarterly installments as well, which work really well.
And do you see a difference between kind of, because you work with SMEs, you work with large kind of corporate type. Do you see a difference of?
So the larger corporate type will most likely not do postdated check.
Yeah.
That's usually where they want you to show up to their check collection, and you have another expense, hidden expense, have your guy.
Messenger.
Yeah, I remember being the one to do it, and I think it was for Aboitiz, I had to stand outside the Union Bank in Makati somewhere for like an hour and a bit with all the kuyas to get that. This is like way back in the day. And I thought to myself, what the hell am I spending like an hour in the heat, like waiting to get a check? And then when I went to collect the check, sorry, this is a bit of a tangent. I went to collect the check. The lady behind the teller booth said, where's your sales invoice? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm just here to collect the check. And she's like, you need your OR to receive the check. That was early days, like learning the ways of the pain. And then now we have to have a courier who does all that for us. And that's another cost. But yeah, the bigger accounts or the enterprise level usually will pay on time though, as well. It's more the SMEs when they're having their own cash flow issues. I find that it's very easy to delay payments to suppliers. A typical one that I get a lot will be, and I'm sure other people get this, is like, oh, the president or the signatory is on vacation or out of the country, so they cannot sign.
It's an excuse though.
Yeah, so that's the classic one. But I gone to the extent of ordering their accounts payable department Krispy Kreme with a note, so they remember us and they will prioritize our invoice payments versus other. It's kind of a cheeky thing, but it actually worked. And then I tried doing that for a client in I didn't realize that their AP department was based in Mindanao and the province some very far, no Grab, no nothing. And I told her, I'm going to send you some donuts. And she's like, oh, where from? I was like, on Grab. And she was like, you can't do that. We're in like nowhere. Yeah.
That's a good tip. So send donuts to the accounting or AP department.
Yeah, you just have to do it once and then they'll
remember
build a relationship. So it's ideally your AR department is speaking to their AP and then it kind of, they build the relationship.
Have you kind of implemented anything to predict cash flow movements? I mean, you there's always kind of a, you know what's in the bank now, you know when payroll's coming, but you know your pipeline of contracts. I mean, you looked at like how do you forecast the next 3 months based on the pipeline, assuming we get paid on time, we get paid late 30 days.
Yeah.
You put something together?
So we have a cash flow forecast of if all goes well,
Yeah.
this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And in terms of pipeline for new clients coming in,
Yeah.
this is kind of, so if I look 6 months, if I look at Q4 right now, it's like, okay, some of these agreements are coming up to an end. Is pipeline coming in going to match that? And this is what the ideal world kind of looks like.
Yeah.
But that said, there's always going to be delayed payments.
Right.
I don't do anything to necessarily forecast that or expect that. If it happens, and it's happened before, for literally, I think I took a screenshot on my phone because I was so like, what the heck's going on? I think we had like 10,000 pesos in the account
Nice.
and had to make payroll within the next 10 days kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So at that point, I just had to pick up the phone and start dialing and being like, you have to pay now. Like this is getting too ridiculous. And I think the 2 days before, like the day before, we got a check that was able to cover the payroll. And that was like complete luck. That was the closest to, as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, that was the biggest holy shit moment for me.
Yeah.
So what I did, I joined the EO Accelerators Entrepreneurs Organization. They're pretty good. They're pretty active here as well. And they did an accelerator. So they take your business and they help you scale it to $1 million a year over, you do it for 2 years, this program. And it was there where I met this guy who from Australia. For some reason, he was in the Philippines. He was an EO and he said to me, I told him that story and he said, you need to read this book called Profit First. That book just changed my whole approach to finances. So now, obviously there's the late payments bit, but what would sting me a lot was like a surprise VAT bill for like a million pesos, say. Which shouldn't be a surprise. That's because finance should be like, hey, we have this coming up. Yeah, exactly. And then there's like some tax payments that kind of came out of nowhere, like SPGB, PhilHealth, all that stuff. So like there was just this one account that was receiving money and then spitting money out, and it was just kind of chaotic. So what Profit First does is you have a receiving account, an OPEX account, a tax account, owner's comp account, and then like this vault where you save for like 13th month and all that stuff. So having multiple accounts to then allocating percentages. So of all the money that came in that month, allocate 30% to the tax account, allocate this percent to OPEX. So you're gonna be surprise free, and there's always gonna be some cash there. So if an incident like that happens again, and it's like, holy crap, what do? We at least have cash from somewhere that we can move in to help stabilize things. But from a reporting perspective, yeah, there's no like foresight on seeing when a situation like that can happen.
We just kind of released an article or a bit of a study on SME budgeting, and even if you kind of run budgets, what we see is after like a quarter or two, those budgets are forgotten. They like kind of like KPI data to something. The financial analysis, financial planning of it, and what we see a lot is that you have your plan. And if you're a small, medium-sized business or growth-oriented business, that plan changes like in months, right? And running a budget takes time. So it's easier to run some like simple forecasting and like kind of have tricks like what you just described, like use different bank accounts and have like very operational tricks to make sure that you kind of navigate things correctly. But yeah, I mean, cash flow, you can be an established business, you can be a growth-oriented business. Cash flow is always the key, right? And if when environment where getting paid is difficult, we've heard like, my clients are not paying me, so I can't pay you type of thing. I think, well, that's not how contracts typically work, but yeah, it's quite common here. And financing options also to cover like working capital, very difficult to find in the Philippines. So I wish maybe in other places like the UK, like it's the same, get a
Like a
bank,
bridge
like,
loan.
yeah, or a bridge loan or a credit line from a bank. Here, you need strong
Yeah.
relationships or collateral.
Yeah. And they have really high interest rates here as well.
Correct. So,
Course, so-
I mean, there are opportunities for sure, but the execution is can be
Yeah.
challenging. Your industry is going through a lot of kind of changes, I imagine, right? Google Ads, which is probably the cool thing for a long time, is I don't know how you see it, but we see a lot of changes there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you see the next few years for you guys?
It's a good question. AI has at first last year I remember reading an article or I was listening to a podcast and it was talking about AI and how agents are going to take everything over and it's going to happen by 2027 and all this stuff, which kind of freaked me out and I was like up late at night and all this. But the reality is I think it's going to take a little bit longer than what I initially thought. But in terms of like what's happening with the platforms and AI and everything, it is definitely moving to a more automated setup. So you can put a strategy together, run your campaigns, but it's still, and you can set up campaigns with Claude now. It does the Meta MCP, the Google MCP, all that stuff. But you still need to have someone who knows what they're doing to check, verify, analyze the data. If you have someone who's not trained or thinks they're the expert because they've gone in Claude or ChatGPT and done their thing, it still requires, I believe, someone who has the expertise, the experience to know what to look for and not just be told by AI. Because a lot of what does come out of AI isn't always 100% correct. It may sound great because you didn't think of it, but it's not always 100% correct. And I think it will still take time to get there. When it comes to like crunching numbers, anything with like anything numerical, like I find that's definitely where Claude, like we use Claude a lot, will help me because I'm not a financial person. So to understand things and run like just to understand things simply and not be too like overburdened with all these numbers and a P&L, I can get some support just like going through Claude, that sort of thing. Even for like campaign data, like I'll run that through Claude. Media planning, I'll run that through Claude just to get a second opinion, an idea. Also to help with like the getting the baseline there and getting the meat there, so to speak. But I still think that like with all this automation, the way the ad platforms are going, it will require less time for people to focus on like media buying and making optimizations and stuff like that. But that said, I still think you need someone who's doing the setups, checking it, more operational type stuff technically. And then having a strategist sit on top to kind of, give the guidance, but using AI as a tool, not as the agency or the marketing company or as the boss. I think it should be looked at as more of a tool that helps with efficiency. And I think, does that mean that we don't need to hire 50 people? I'm all for that because I find like having a lot of team members, it's difficult and it keeps you up at night because payroll gets bigger. But that said, like in the Philippines as well, specifically, there's been some pushback on not AI as a whole, but like what I've noticed with some businesses doing like live selling using AI, using like AI in affiliate marketing. Like even TikTok themselves told me like try not to use AI because it's less authentic. And if you're trying to
AI avatar,
AI avatars, yeah, things like that, it's less authentic. So I think that component will always still be there. You're always going to have like on the live selling side, on the affiliate marketing side, actual people doing that. That's going to keep moving. But media buying, it's definitely shifting already. Just the way the ad platforms are going. I saw in Meta ads the other day, there was a box that came up with a prompt, tell me the campaign you want to set up, the audience, everything. And you just do a prompt and then it will go and create it. But then again, it's more for smaller businesses that don't really know what they're doing, that need a little bit of support there. It's changing. I haven't felt the full impact of it yet in terms of losing clients to AI. Have I realized there's less of a need to hire people? Probably like more junior roles, I think. And I think that's being felt in the UK already. I've read a lot of articles about that.
Like there's no need to hire junior people.
Super junior roles, yeah. That's because I think a lot of AI and automations can help do a lot of grunt work.
Yeah.
But that said, you're always gonna have to need smart, capable people and a strong company culture to do your work, to do your business.
It feels, I mean, based on our experience and what we see, it feels like it can do a lot. But if you don't frame the problem correctly, or if you don't like ask the right question and you know how to kind of guide that question towards a tactical problem or strategic problem.
Yeah.
It's very generic as well, right? And
Exactly.
then kind of it does sounds very smart, but it's not necessarily help you solve the problem if you can't frame it
Yeah.
correctly. So it still remains a tool, right?
I think that's a good point. And also training people on how to use it effectively. That's the big thing. Because what I've noticed, I had a client complain the other day as well that said, hey, someone in your team, they replied to me and it sounded like straight out of ChatGPT. And I thought to myself, it's not bad though. But like the content was there. Like it did make sense and it was the right thing to go. But sometimes if you copy and paste straight from there, you can tell kind of straight away use of vocabulary that's there, the adjectives,
Even
like
the punctuation kind of is
punctuation.
different.
Yeah, like I use typeless a lot. So like I dictate
Yeah.
to my phone and to my laptop. It helps. It's so much faster.
So there is a pushback. Like if someone sees something like as AI generated without any form of edit,
I think
is there the questions like why are we paying you guys if it's coming out of AI or type of thing? Or
I've heard people say that, like, "We're asking you because 'cause you're the experts, why are you just asking AI?" But it's like, if we wanna verify something, it's still okay to second check as, like,
yeah,
a colleague, as you would with a colleague. Again, it's a tool, right? Like, sometimes I come up with my hypothesis, I come up with the way I'm gonna attack a certain problem, and I'll say, like, "Claude, if you're in this position, here's all the context. What would you do?" And then I compare it, and sometimes I get ideas from that, and then I mix them together, and then I come up with the ultimate solution. And I think the one thing that's also overlooked is using frameworks. So like different authors like Jay Abraham. I know if my wife watches this, she'd love me saying that. But like there's different business coaches, professionals out there that have all these frameworks, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, public speaking, whatever it is. Even if you use those guys in your prompt and say follow these frameworks, that will increase the output by like 10x as
so
well.
what would you mean? Like if you were
Yeah, or if you're
Mr. X, how would you
yeah,
solve this
and
type of
who
thing?
specializes in this,
Yeah.
or using frameworks by this author who writes a lot of business books. How would you tackle this, or how would you approach this specific problem? Say if it's, an unhappy client, or if it's a disgruntled employee, or whatever it may be. You have what you're going for, but then to verify things through AI is great. But just keeping the guardrails there with frameworks that are vetted from experts, that's kind of what helps improve the output, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah. It kind of helps you look at new angles, potential solutions you haven't thought of, like
Exactly.
new ideas.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier about like, hiring a team and growing a team is difficult. Payroll goes up. Like,
Yeah.
how many are you guys?
I think it's about 25 full time now.
Yeah.
And then we have a few contractors as well that help us. So all in all, I think it's around 30 to 35.
I mean, that's one of the main challenges of running a business, right? Scaling the human aspect. Do you have a specific kind of growth goal? And it doesn't have to be head count, right? With AI, you probably can increase your revenue per head count. But would you see it as like something as because some people don't want to grow. They're just like, I'm happy with the team size. I can run 1,000 people operation. As a founder, this is soft
That's,
spot. This is where I'm confident
yeah,
and I feel good. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Or
I have. And that's kind of my ex business partner and I, Ollie, based in London. We kind of had that discussion when we separated the businesses, because from his side, he was saying he was happy to have a marketing consultancy, have a few employees, have that kind of that lifestyle of,
Coach type of
yeah,
thing?
that and then being, the consultant and having the team to support the delivery, and kind of having that set up instead of wanting to, grow it to multi-million dollars of revenue and having all these people and
Lifestyle business type. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And then on my end, in my head, I'm kind of like, no, I want to like grow this really big. I want to, have more employees. I want to generate more sales. I want to grow the company. I want to, impact a lot more businesses, and, limiting the scope to just me. I want to have a solid team and have those guys kind of run things. But it's very difficult, especially if you don't have funding as well. It makes it really hard. We never raised any capital. We've started the business with the minimum needed. For me, it's like I do want to grow the business. I just think the Philippine market, like it's tough. Like we talked about cash flow issues, all that stuff. The sales cycles are also really long here. Everything is very relationship based. I'm sure you've seen. Whereas conducting business outside the Philippines is just a lot more transactional. It's a lot faster. Like in the US, for example, or in the UK. I think that component will help you. Having the offshore component is going to help you scale faster than being just based in the Philippines, if I'm going to be honest about that.
So that is an angle you're considering, like, you
Yeah,
probably
we work with clients outside the
okay.
Philippines as well. Yeah, we still do. Even though Ollie and I kind of separated, we have a, we work with clients in the U.S., Singapore, and outside the Philippines as well, which is a separate team.
Have you considered, um, if this would kind of dilute your strategic intent or
Yeah,
marketing? I mean, I'm not a marketing guy. I
yeah,
can't
no,
tell you how to do that, but
I get what you mean because
yeah.
there's a few ways of talking about this, but there's shiny object syndrome. Have you heard that? Or
I haven't.
the
No.
lady in the red dress. So I think it was Hormozy talked about that, or a few other salespeople. It's very easy after a few years in business to get this shiny object syndrome or lady in the red dress, where it's something that looks attractive to you, and you go towards that shiny object, and you forget about your main business because it's this new thing that looks exciting and cool, and you want to work on that while this starts to deteriorate. So that's the thing that I'm very cautious about. And if you go outside your niche, for example, if you go outside your market, it can have that impact. And then it becomes a lot more difficult to juggle both at the same time.
Correct. But you still feel that there, like, I'd say, blockers or challenges in the domestic market that make it attractive to kind of chase the red dress, so to speak.
Yeah, I definitely think that as well. I think it's also, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the peso is like
Correct.
61,
Yeah.
almost 60. I think it went to 60. I don't know if it went to
It
62 at
almost
one.
got to
Almost got
62,
to
I think.
62. So like a big part of it is also like spreading your risk.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of makes it worth it. If the Philippines gets hit with like really bad economic downturn,
Yeah.
if there's some like crazy thing that happens here, which not too long ago there were crazy things that happened here, like coups and whatnot. But if something happens here that really impacts your business, you still have income source of supply.
Yeah.
So it helps with that as well. I think overall, like Philippines is still like it's a fast growing economy. There's so much happening here.
Young,
Yeah,
very young.
it's very young. Personally, like I think Manila is a very expensive city, but if you're comparing that to other cities like London or Sydney, like you can't even get close to comparing. If you compare it to like even Bangkok, like rent in Bangkok was less than here probably, but the cost of goods in Bangkok was quite expensive. It's a cash eater in Thailand, but here it's like quality of life. So personally, like you can have a much better quality of life here, I find, as a business owner versus if you're in other developed markets as well. That's a big aspect of partly like why I've stayed in the Philippines as well. But I have a phrase that I've used for a long time called the Manila moment, when shit's just going completely haywire. And usually it's like in the same day, you'll have a problem with the bank. You'll have a
Yeah.
problem with a government agency about something. Maybe like certain things just stop working and there's no logic behind it. When stuff starts to not work because the whole system is a bit cockeyed in a way. And that,
Compiles
yeah,
pounds, right?
compounds,
Like
yeah.
they say shit comes in buckets or something.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
it's in English,
yeah.
or I'm making it up, but
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm still, I'm here for the long run for sure. I'm betting on the Philippines big,
nice.
based on, the fact that I love living here. That's number one. I love being here, I love people here, but also because I just look at the growth here and how much faster the Philippines is growing versus the UK where I came from. UK, it's all doom and gloom. Like
Correct.
it's just, I don't know. I've been following the news a bit there, but here it's just a lot more dynamic. There are obviously their own problems here, but here is a lot more dynamic. People just generally work harder here, I find, at least from my experience. Everything's changing so much, especially in what we do. Yeah.
And also like kind of going back to what we started discussing, bureaucracy, the administrative challenges, it is improving. Not like we're not anywhere near like ease of doing business in Singapore or Hong Kong, but
I think I
that
checked recently, though, Philippines was below South Sudan on ease of doing business rankings.
yeah, it's not. I mean,
100 and something.
there are definitely challenges, but there is an intention. It seems to address this gradually. So it looks like it's in the right direction. While kind of the old world in the West or Europe is, feels like the candle has been mostly burnt and there's not much left. So for entrepreneurs, Southeast Asia and the Philippines looks very, very attractive. So you mentioned kind of a last question, right? On the you kind of part ways with your business partner because you had different ambitions. Your goal was kind of like scale a business, and it was more after a lifestyle kind of enterprise or entrepreneurship. What does success look like if you kind of like were to picture yourself 10 years down the line? What does it look like for you?
That's a really good question. I have no idea. I have no idea. I haven't actually thought of, I don't know what it is, but I'm so into like, and this is what my wife tells me as well. I don't think about the long term enough. But I think for the business, to be honest, what looks good, I mean, I would love to scale it up locally, let's say, to a point where I'm able to sell it,
Exit.
and yeah, exit and be able from that to buy some land here, have my house probably in the province somewhere on an island, and be able to kind of like retire. If I can do that in 10 years, I'd be super happy.
How old are you now?
I'm 34. I would love to sell this eventually one day, or just keep it as passive income,
Yeah.
and have someone manage and
Dividends.
operate it. Yeah, and just sit on the board and kind of consult. I would like to do more similar businesses and other niches as well. So, like hospitality is something we have our own like hospitality team, hospitality department. We do a lot with hospitality businesses in the U.S. and here in the Philippines. So there's more that I want to do in that sector as well, and kind of grow that out. But I think for now, yeah, I would say to get to a point where I could retire comfortably and
I think that's kind of like a lot of the entrepreneurs that we speak to. That's what they aspire to, like kind of get out of the predictable but almost uncomfortable path of like get a 30-year mortgage, work your ass off to pay that mortgage and pay for your
yeah,
kids' education, and
yeah,
you feel like a bit of a
yeah.
rat race type of
I've
thing.
seen that with my own parents as well.
Yeah.
And they live in Thailand. My dad's retired, but he still has some work, like projects and stuff. But yeah, I see what they went through. He's corporate, like he used to have his own business, sold it in the 90s, and then worked in corporate side. I definitely want to be in a position where like I have freedom, complete freedom. I think that's the big one. I have felt like sometimes the business, I don't know if you get this sometimes, but like I'm not trapped, but like I, do you know what I mean? Like I am kind of trapped, but
Yeah.
like,
Well, you have some chains, but you have the
yeah,
key,
yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
kind of it, but that
That's
creates a weird dilemma.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You got the chains, but you got the key. So it's like before though, I was so emotional about the business. I was so like caught up in, oh, this is what we started, and oh my god, it's the brand, and this is Bamboo, and all this stuff. And when my partner and I separated end of last year, started this year, it was kind of like I'm not too fussed like about what happens. It's a vessel. It's generating cash. You know, if we can get to a point of selling it, who knows if someone wants to buy a marketing company in 10 years, but we'll see. Or keep it as a cash cow. It depends. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like for me, what I want personally is the freedom element. And the way to get there, I think, is to have a healthy business and enjoy the work as well. It's hard to enjoy it 100% of the times, but I think as long as you can try and enjoy it as much as possible. And as an entrepreneur, you get the freedom as well, I think, which is nice. Like, I don't have to biometric clock in at, whatever time to do my 8-hour shift. Like there is that freedom element of I can go to Thailand, see my family, work from there. But then again, sometimes yeah, but then sometimes I'm working on weekends, yeah, and doing stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a tricky one, but I think I always wanted to do my own thing. After working at WPP, I looked at my boss, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss, the big dog, and I thought to myself, like, I don't want to do that.
You didn't see yourself in any of these
No.
people. Yeah.
There's a clear progression, or you go client side, you work, maybe you become a CMO, but that like just doesn't, just it's so predictable.
I mean, that's me treat like, entrepreneurship, right? It's not for the faint-hearted, but if you are successful at it, you can kind of create your lifestyle and be a bit more free and in
Yeah.
charge. If you can get rid of your own chains, which requires a lot of introspection as well as
Yeah.
talent. Do you have any questions? Anything that we forgot to talk about, Alex?
No, I was just gonna say the last thing, is for if you're gonna do business in the Philippines or you're gonna set up do entrepreneurship here, I think one of the big things, at least from living here, is to have patience. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
that's honestly like, but if you can keep your cool and you can be patient with certain things and just have trust in the process that it's gonna happen. For me, at least, that's like I like to think I'm a pretty patient person.
Yeah.
Just when I reflect on things, like every so often, boxing or running or whatever it is, I think having that patience angle is key because if you're some hot-headed guy from New York coming here, setting up a business, getting shut down there, it's not. It's gonna be a
It's gonna be
I
frustrating.
think you need some level of patience, yeah.
Thanks for that, Alex.
No worries.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining, and Yeah, good luck. I hope, I hope we'll chat again. I'm sure we'll chat again. Thank you. Thanks, Alex.